Hey, everybody. It is another week of comics, and it's post Thanksgiving. And I am actually in my hotel room at Loscon, which has been great so far. Tomorrow's going to be the busy day, but today, yeah. So, anyway, before I go any further, of course, if you have not already, please uh, sign up for to be notified of the Kickstarter for Horror Not Hate, uh, a horror comics anthology and art book that is coming from Slow Feet Comics, and it is a benefit. So all proceeds after, of course, the cost of printing and distribution will be going to civil rights groups, I believe so far named Churla and Lambda Law. I'm sure there'll be more because, let's face it, unfortunately, the need to support civil rights groups is not going away anytime soon, and in fact, getting greater and more crucial. So please do sign up for this. Aside from my story, Ladies' Night at the Saddle Rack, which is done in collaboration with the fantastic Rafael Navarro, there are so many talented and well-known people involved in this book. I cannot believe I'm here. So anyway, let's move on to the comic stack. The rules are, once again, it's books that I have picked up at House of Secrets on my usual Wednesday pickup. Some of them I read because they're either like number ones or I have caught up with the storyline, so I can read. And some of them are just kind of a justification as to why I'm still doing it, because I know that on the weekend, which is usually when I take another older stack and start reading through to try to catch up, it's going to happen. So this week, it's a little bit unique. The person who actually sparked this idea, and he doesn't even know that he did, was Jim Krueger, Eisner Award-winning writer for Earth X and many more things. And he has released, this is actually book one. Book two was supposed to come out this week, and because distribution is as crazy as it is, House of Secrets did not get the copies that at least I ordered. This is Oh Haunted Night. Book two, it was called I Saw Mommy Killing Santa Claus. And it's not a comic, it's actually short stories. This is volume one, which is the Frankincense Monster and Other Creepy Christmas Stories. So Jim is attempting to revive that tradition of telling slightly chilling stories at Christmas time, because obviously one of the most famous Christmas stories is A Christmas Carol, and it's a ghost story. And that was the way it used to be. So I'm going to say so far, they're not terrifying stories, but they're interesting takes on horror tropes in with a Christmas background. So I wish I could tell you that I got to read volume two this week, but I did not because it did not arrive. But this is from IFWG Publishing International, which is in Australia. This also has a cover. Both volumes have covers by J.K. Snyder III, created kind of a forgotten Dr. Midnight, but I won't get bogged down on that. But anyway, this is the publishing house that also has a comic book imprint, IPI Comics, which does The Human Fly, and has a Kickstarter out this week for the second volume of The Matron by my friends Drew Edwards and David Bowles. So anyway, this fun, and you can read little short stories around the tree, I guess. They are pretty cool. Anyway, and this volume one has a blurb from Sam Raimi, and really don't get much better than that as far as he's no slouch. So anyway, that's the prose. Now let's get to the comics. First up, I have mentioned this one before, so I won't belabor it too much. The Mortal Thor. I am caught up with this. This is by Al Ewing, and once again, we must put the credits all over the place. Al Ewing. Juan Cabal is the artist of this issue, because it's kind of a meanwhile in Asgard, because the Mortal Thor has been an Earth that is completely disconnected from Norse mythology, which is just mythology. And this is what's happening in Asgard in the meantime, following on the events of the immortal Thor, as opposed to the mortal Thor. So anyway, also Matteo Iacano is the color artist, and Joe Sabino is the letterer. And of course, Alex Ross is the cover artist, which, as I always say, no slouch there. So this is fun to kind of go back over. I have the confession that, Thor is one of those characters I dip in and out of. And so I missed what was the inspiration, I think, for Thor Love and Thunder, which was the God Killer saga. And there are characters in here that are from that. But, Al Ewing's good. You can catch up. It doesn't take much. But, of course, if you want to catch up, and probably I should and will at some point, is the Marvel Unlimited app, has all of it. So, and I should say, I absolutely believe in supporting your local comic shop. Absolutely. And I love having hard copies of things in my hand. Why I got the apps for Marvel, DC, and now I have Global Comics is because I used to host annually the Pro Fan Trivia Match at Comic-Con, which no longer exists. It became Trivia for Chocolate, and Tom Galloway was the founder of the event, and he hosts it now, and it's cool. But I was often tasked with writing trivia questions, and sometimes my, in particular, Silver Age knowledge was not super strong, so I got those apps so that I could catch up that way. This one I have not mentioned before, but I did catch up with. Trinity, daughter of Wonder Woman. And if you are confused by how Wonder Woman could have a daughter in modern continuity, she's actually kind of from the future. In the regular Wonder Woman book, she's a baby. But this is a time-traveling adventure that calls to mind the days like in the 60s when there was Wonder Girl, Wonder Tot, and Wonder Woman. And Wonder Girl was a character sort of created by accident because these were imaginary stories. And aren't they all, as Alan Moore once said, imaginary stories that pitted and teamed up Wonder Woman at different ages. And outside of the Wonder Woman books, the writers did not know that they were not separate characters. So Wonder Girl appeared and has been kind of a mess since. Yeah, I think, is she Donna Troy? Is she Troya? I can't remember what name she goes by. But anyway, this is Diana's daughter, also formed of clay, but with kind of the spirit of Steve Trevor. So sassy girl. This calls back to that. It's by Tom King, who is currently writing Wonder Woman as well. The artist is Belen Ortega, whose art I don't think I've seen before this series, and I love it. It's absolutely spot on for this, and I like the style that's kind of happening, and Dan Mora is definitely of it too, where, it's a little stylized, it's not as hyper realistic, and it's kind of bringing in a cartoony, but that just only aids in the storytelling. So anyway, colorist is Luis Guerrero, and letterer is Clayton Cowles. And this is fun because I don't even remember what happened, how this happened in the first issue, but Wonder Girl or Trinity, because she's adopted that name, Trinity, has accidentally transformed all the Robins into, she's transformed Damien and Jonathan Kent, older versions of them who have been like her babysitters and her mentors, into corgis. And really, to try to make more sense of it than that makes no sense. It is fun, and it's a time traveling story about chasing down corgis dressed like Superman and Robin and Batman. So anyway, it's fun. That's Trinity number 5. I did catch up on this. Justice League Unlimited number 13. This is by Mark Waid and Dan Mora, aforementioned here. Tamara Bonvillain is colorist, and Ariana Mar is on letters. And this, as I mentioned before, is Justice League Unlimited is like a great bang for your buck because you get so many different superheroes. And if you can only buy one book, that week, you're going to get somebody you like in it. The interesting thing here is Mark Waid is also using this as an excuse to kind of create other super teams within sub teams, if you will. It is a tie-in to the DCKO event. And honestly, as much as I'm trying very hard to keep up with it, the consequences of the KO event outside of the actual DCKO book, I'm a little unsure. This implies improbably, and again, how do people in this Earth not go barking mad? They're loading all the population of Earth onto space arcs, and this feels like a Steve Martin routine. But anyway, that's for the old folks like me who remember Steve Martin's albums, comedy albums, before Martin Short. So anyway, this subgroup in here is called the Terrific 10. And so you can pick up on your back issue 12 and 13, and it is a journey to hell with characters who are from all over the timeline, different versions of superheroes, including one that I have not seen before, what is a Hawkman from far the distant past, from a pacifist race. And I had not remembered or realized that the twist now in the Hawkman reincarnation thing, which now I'm again mourning the opportunity lost with Black Adam, the movie, that the Hawk God, or the Carter Hall, as we know him, Hawkman reincarnates all over the galaxy, not just on Earth. And so this is a version of him from a different time. So not a Thanagarian, but one who does acknowledge his role as Hawkman, but he's a pacifist, which is different than the others. There's here Jason Todd as Batman Beyond, or no, I'm sorry, it's Tim Drake as Batman Beyond, or wearing the uniform that we know as Batman Beyond. There are others. There's Power Girl that I think was from the Earth 2, that was from the New 52. And, it's an interesting opportunity. And they're being led by Mr. Terrific, who is just Mr. Terrific. And if you saw Superman this last summer, you'll get a kick out of just how incredibly competent he is. And meanwhile, on the left, there's characters like the Challengers of the Unknown, who now do fit as Justice League, but they're not super powered. I just love that, of course, for old timers, Mark Waid knows it all and brings it all together, but it's not in a way that's alienating to somebody who doesn't really know all these characters. You may not know Challengers of the Unknown, but understand they're just super competent, cool experts, and they don't have powers. They're just good people, brave adventurers. I have talked about this one before, so I'm not going to belabor. I'm still enjoying it. Battle World, not Battlestar. I started to think Battlestar Galactica and go, Anyway, Christus Gage, Marcus Toe is the artist, and color artist is Rochelle Rosenberg, and letterer is Travis Lanham. And what can I say? It is fun. I forgot to mention that it's also involving Arcade, who, sue me, one of my absolute favorite Marvel villains, and I don't know why. I guess because he's like kind of clown adjacent, but I love the concept of being trapped in a killer carnival. I can't believe that the Marvel Cinematic Universe has not picked him up for a TV show or something. Now, if somebody wants to tell me that I have forgotten a usage of him somewhere, great, but I don't think I have. Do not understand why they have not gotten around to somehow doing this in at least a TV series on Disney Plus. I don't know. Anyway, so now these are the books that I've read, and these are the books I have not that I need to catch up on, but that I enjoy, and I will justify why I'm buying them. Geiger number 18. I think I've talked about Ghost Machine books with Redcoat, I think just last week. Geiger is, some people have told me that it feels a lot like Fallout in its setting, but okay, it's not Fallout. It is set in the future in what they call the unknown war. Something triggered a nuclear holocaust. These are the survivors afterwards, and Tarek Geiger was a cancer patient who became radioactive, and I think technically he could be immortal. He has cooling rods that he keeps in his back. He's the glowing man, and he's legendary across what's left of the United States. There are a lot more survivors than you were led to initially believe in the book. But as I say, we're up to 18, and this does tie in I know that at some point they keep promising that Redcoat will be involved. They'll meet characters like the Northerner and a character we haven't really met, the Monster and Widow X. I love, and they've been promising this for like well over a year, a character called First Ghost. And if there's been a story on First Ghost, I haven't read it, but I haven't found it. But Junkyard Joe, which is, it was kind of like GI Robot, but different backstory, really kind of cool, interesting, and how he's been a pawn in governmental machinations and shenanigans. Anyway, this is Jeff Johns and Gary Frank, where the Gary Frank was co-creator. He is drawn a few pages in this issue. Jeff is the writer. Eduardo Pansica is penciler from pages 1 to 18, and Norm Rapman is the inker from 1 to 18, and Robert Nugent is his colorist, and Brad Anderson is the color artist from 19 to 22, which are the 3 pages, 19, 20, 21, 4 pages that Gary Frank did himself, penciled and inked. So I do love this book, partially because I absolutely love Gary Frank's art, but it's really cool. Pick up a trade paperback and volume 1 and get into it, and it's pretty cool. If there were resemblances to Fallout, like at the beginning, because I know it started outside of Las Vegas, and I loved the idea of the casinos, and then that's when somebody told me, no, that happens in Fallout, but I didn't play Fallout Las Vegas. It's so different from that. It's so removed from that. There are characters that are still kind of connected to that setting that they had, but it's not what's going on. So love it, love it, love it. Absolute Wonder Woman. I somehow ended up with a variant cover, and I don't normally get into that, but there we go. Issue 14. Oh, and there's the regular cover underneath. And what's interesting is that they're also calling this, even though it's Absolute Wonder Woman, it says All In. So things are starting to pull together, and I think, DCKO, where we're basically reading a video game play out, where we're going to get the King Omega who can take on Darkseid. And this is by Kelly Thompson. The artist this issue is Matthias Bergara, and Jordi Belair is the colorist. Like Tamara Bonvillain, Jordi Belair, incredible colorist. Becca Carey is the letterer. And I love, if you haven't heard on what's going on with Absolute Wonder Woman, again, on the absolute Earth that is infected by Darkseid, it is Diana has been raised by Circe in hell. And so she did not know Amazons growing up. She was not on Paradise Island. But as a child, her innocence was so good that she is tamed like the fiercest of mythological creatures. So it's very fun. And I should also say, by the way, to tonight's episode, co-sponsored by a bottle of Coke Zero I bought before I came to the hotel. Anyway, it's great. It's fun. The Department of Truth, and by James Tynan IV. Martin Simmons is the artist. The letterer is Aditya Bidikar. Designer Dylan Todd, because this book is always incredibly well designed. And the editor is Steve Fox. This is following up a thing with, I love this, with Elvis as the mythical version of Elvis versus the real Elvis, because that is the point of the Department of Truth. If you are not reading this book, now I admit I'm saying that being a couple of issues behind, but it is a book so necessary for now. And in a world where we're not even trusting, because of AI, images that we see and what we know, and so many people believe just, no, this is what it is, and so many conspiracy theories on both sides. Look, and I'm saying that's what's frustrating me about the world right now. I finally got around, went, okay, there's no more mystery to the Kennedy assassination. And then a whole bunch of new things have started up where I'm going, no, I don't want to believe in conspiracies. Anyway, but this is a science fiction, fantasy, horror book that absolutely is just about what is the truth. And Yeah, it takes it to a level that I don't believe is actually happening, but I mean, still. Anyway, I love this book. It should be, somebody should have snapped this up for a TV adaptation. I don't know if they have, but absolutely pick these up if you have not. One, just having fun, and I think it's hilarious that there are two different versions of Godzilla teaming up or fighting against the DC universe and the Marvel universe. Marvel has the Toho version and DC has Legendary. So this is Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong series 2. This is actually issue 5, and this is fun as heck. And I admit that, like, I met the writer of the first series, who does the Godzilla books for, I think, IDW. No. Does the Legendary ones, and which is, I think, are published by Legendary because it's the American version of Godzilla. And if you didn't know there were two different versions, there are two different versions. So Brian Buccellato is the writer, Christian Duce is the artist, and Luis Guerrero is the colorist, with Tyler Smith from Comic Craft is the letterer. And this is just fun. It is not in continuity in any way, but it is in continuity with the first Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong. So, it is fun. So Conan, Scourge of the Serpent. I actually brought the second issue. I read the first issue last weekend, and I brought the second issue along with me to the hotel so I could read that and catch up, because I absolutely love. I've said that, I won't belabor it, but let's see, where's the credits here? Come on. I know it's Zub, and the artist is who I want to really give credit to because this is gorgeous, but I absolutely love the introduction that Jim Zub has given me of John Carawan, who is the 1930s occult detective, and which was a whole thing. And I just discovered that in the last few years, that there's this whole literary movement of occult detectives. I thought Dr. Occult at the DC, did he first appear in Action Comics or Detective Comics? But a character that Siegel and Schuster created before Superman. And I didn't realize he was already a knockoff of like 5 or 6 different detectives. But anyway, this is, Grim Jim Zub. I love they still have the Marvel thing. So Jim Zub is the writer. Yvonne Gill is the artist. Joao Canola is the colorist. And Richard Starkings and Titanic. No, this guy's not named Titanic. Tyler Smith is the lettering, with Chris Patera is the editor. I interviewed Chris and Zub together at Comic-Con this last summer. They're just doing incredible work with Conan and making me, and the other characters, and making me a Robert E. Howard fan, where I flirted with that in high school, and now absolutely love these. And I enjoy the regular Conan book, and I read Savage Sword of Conan, and I said they're keeping the Marvel thing with the adjectives, but it's actually published by Titan, and I love it. So anyway, issue 3 came out. This super fun, the Marvel treatment of Uncle Scrooge. So Uncle Scrooge, Earth's Mightiest Duck, number 4. I am behind. I got to find the second issue. I know I have it, but it's written by Jason Aaron. Artists are Lorenzo Pastricio, Alessandro Pastricio, Andrea Ficero, Giuseppe Camuncoli, Daniele Orlandini, Dale Eaglesham, an American artist, has done a lot of work for Marvel. Colors by Ariana Consoni, and Joe Caramagna is the letterer. And I just love the Marvel treatment of Uncle Scrooge, because if there is any Disney property, which really people forget that, like in the 50s and 60s, when Carl Barks was doing beautiful work with Uncle Scrooge, it really wasn't in cartoons. It was all this adventure stuff in comics. And so to see what inspired DuckTales become like a Marvel superhero kind of, at least just treated with that seriousness, it's kind of fun. The Invisible Man, number 4, I am caught up. I just didn't get around to reading this in time. Maybe I will read it tonight. Issue 4 of The Invisible Man. And James Tynion IV and an artist named Donnie, and the colorist is Brad Simpson, or maybe he's the letterer. No, he is the colorist, and Becca Carey is the letterer. She just didn't get cover credit. Probably should have, because the lettering in here is really good. I enjoyed The Invisible Man because, oddly enough, last year was the first time I'd actually seen the Claude Rains film, the Universal Monsters film. Although certainly sung the song from Rocky Horror for so long, Claude Rains was the Invisible Man. And what James Tynion did with Dracula is doing here is kind of a prequel to that film and leading into it and giving it a lot more depth of characterization. Though, by the way, I think that film, the original movie, holds up very well. It's really fun. And if you have not seen it, you should. But you could read this first, I guess, although I think it would color it, because I think there's a slightly lighter tone to the Universal movie versus what's happening in the prequel. It's making Griffin completely, that's the Invisible Man, making him very kind of sociopathic, kind of sociopathic from the get-go, whereas the movie, and I think H.G. Wells' original novel, but also that's one I haven't read in a long time, implied that it was the formula that was doing it. This makes it clear that no, he was pretty messed up before he started experimenting on himself. And last, but certainly not least, I'm just behind because I think I got to read the annual first, Absolute Batman number 14. This came out first, as far as the absolutes. This is the title that was released first. Scott Snyder's the writer. Nick Dragotta, who you may recall from years ago, a really good series with Jonathan Hickman called East of West. And Nick Dragotta, and then Frank Martin is the colorist, and Clayton Cowles, once again, is the letterer. This was the first book that came out in the Absolute line, and it was the one that I was like, do we need this? And then I read it and went, oh my God, it is absolutely. And this is, I admit, old man fanboy has to occasionally stop and accept this. Is like, Batman was created in 1939. Well, just like one of the animated series, I think The Batman, was like, people hated like what the villains looked like, and like they really rethought Joker, etc. And I thought, no, in 2000, if you were creating these characters right now, this is what they'd be. And this is when I knew the Absolute Universe was a little too close to ours, but I love the commentary that goes with it and the hope that these characters stuck in a universe infected by Darkseid's Omega energy, they still give us hope. And we can certainly use all of that we can get. So on this Thanksgiving weekend, I do want to say, I love that I'm here at Loscon. I had a wonderful panel today talking about Broadway shows, what happens to get stories onto a Broadway stage, as far as what changes they might make from a book or a movie. And I'm going to talk tomorrow about audio dramas. I'm going to return to improv a little bit. I haven't done improv in a couple of years, and I get to talk comics on Sunday. And I have friends that I haven't seen in a long time, and I'm super excited about that. And I had a fantastic Thanksgiving with friends, and my kids are happy and healthy, and I hope you are happy and healthy. And if there's any book that you're reading that you love, that you go like, why doesn't Derek read that one? I might not know. Or again, I know, as I always say, I can't read everything, but I do try to at least sample a lot of stuff. Like I said, there are characters I go in and out of, and I sample and go, oh yeah. So, I hope that you had a good Thanksgiving and that you have your community, because that's where the hope comes from. And, as always, I sign off with, this, use your powers for good. And yeah, use your powers for good.